Hi, my name is Muhammad NAQIB bin HASBULLAH. My matrix number is BB23110895. So I'm gonna present for the part 1. For the part 1 is construct appropriate graph or chart to compare the relative frequency and the cumulative relative frequency between the two key metrics. Okay, let's start by looking at the relative frequency comparison between the certification and the retention. The relative frequency help us understand how the responses are distributed across a different score interval. For the certification, the relative frequency start low at the 60 to 64 and 65 to 69 intervals. Then steadily increase as the score range goes higher. Certification peak at 0.3 in the 85 to 89 interval, meaning 30% of responses fall in this range, and then slightly decrease in the 90 to 94 interval. On the other hand, retention has a different pattern. It starts low at the 60 to 64 and 65 to 69, but peak early at 0.2333 in the 70 to 74 interval. After that, it dropped with a minor increases in the higher interval, ultimately declining at 90 to 94. This showed that certification is more concentrated at the higher score interval, while retention peak early and then decreases. Now let's shift to cumulative relative frequency, which show the accumulation of responses as we move through the score interval. For certification, the cumulative frequency start flat, then build gradually until it jumps significantly after the 85 to 89 interval, reaching 1.0 by the 90 to 94 range. This shows the most certification responses are concentrated at higher score. In contrast, retention cumulative frequency increases more steadily. It accumulates faster early on, which a major milestone reached in the lower to middle score interval. The growth slow down as we approach the higher score, but it still reach 1.0 by the end. Overall, certification accumulators more slowly, but reach a steep rise toward the higher score. Whereas retention accumulates quickly in the early intervals and slow down later on.
Hello everyone and welcome to part 2 of our analysis. My name is Muhammad FIKRI bin ZULKIFLI and my metric number BB23110X06. In this section, we will be focusing on calculating and comparing measure of central location for two key performance metric, customer satisfaction score and customer retention rate, both expressed as percentage. Let's begin by looking at the data. On the left, we have the customer satisfaction score and on the right, the customer retention rate. Each dataset contains several observation and we will use to compute three main statistical measure of central tendency: the mean, median, and mode. Let me briefly remind you of what each measure represents. The mean is the arithmetic average that we calculate it by adding all the value together and then dividing by the total number of values. The median is the middle value in an ordered dataset. And the last mode Mode is the most frequently occurring value in the dataset. It tells us the value that appears the most. Our goal is to compute these three measures for both datasets and compare the result to understanding which metric perform more consistently and which one show more variability. Now that we have reviewed how to calculate the three main measures of central location, let's take a look at the summary and interpretation of our result. First, we look at the mean. The mean customer satisfaction score is 84.23, while the mean customer retention rate is 74.07. This tells us that on average, customers are more satisfied than they are loyal. Valuable insight that may signal issues in retention strategies even when satisfaction appears high. Next, the median. The median satisfaction score is 85 and the median retention rate is 74. Again, satisfaction scores are generally higher. The conclusion drawn from the mean. Finally, mode. For satisfaction, the most frequent scores are 85 and 88, while for retention, the modes are 68 and 80. This tells us that not only in the average satisfaction higher, but it is also more consistently higher as indicated by the common repeating values. In conclusion, across all three measures, mean, median, and mode, customer satisfaction outperform customer retention. Thank you. That's all from me.
Hello, my name is HIZWAN bin RAMLAH. My metric number is BB231100706. So next I will present part 3, which is calculated the percentiles and construct box plot for each of the two key metrics. For the formula of percentiles, n, which is the total number of data, plus 1, multiply p, which is the desired percentiles, and divided by 100. Next is interpolations. Interpolation in percentiles is used when the calculated percentiles positions not a whole number. So next I will explain about the consumer satisfaction score. First of all, we need to arrange the data in ascending order. So for the 25 percentiles of Q1, the calculation is 30 plus 1 multiplied by 0.25, which is, we get it from 25 divided by 100. So it equals to 7.75. The position 7.75 falls between 79 and 80. So the interpolation is 79 plus 0.75 multiplied with 80 minus 79. So 79 plus 0.75 equals to 79.75. Next is the 50 percentiles, or also known as median. The calculation of the percentiles is 30 plus 1 multiplied by 0.50 equals to 15.5. Both data is same, which is 85. Therefore, the final value of Q2 or the median is 85. For the 75 percentiles, the calculation is 30 plus 1 multiplied by 0.75. So it equals to 23.25. The position 23.25 falls between 89 and 90. So the interpolation is 89 plus 0.25 multiply with the 90 minus 89. So 89 plus 0.25 equals to 89.25. Next, I will talk about the customer retention rate. So for the 25 percentiles of Q1, the calculation is 30 plus 1 multiplied by 0.25, which is, we get it from 25 divided by 100. So it equals to 7.75. So since the value is both data is the same, which is 68, interpolation is not needed. Therefore, the final value of Q1 is 68. So next is 50 percentiles, or also known as median. The calculation of the percentiles is 30 plus 1 multiplied by 0.50 equals to 15.5. For these percentiles, also the same with the 25 percentile, which that value both data is the same, 74. So the final value is 74. For the 75 percentiles, the calculation is 30 plus 1 multiplied by 0.75, so it equals to 33.25. The position 33.25 falls between 80 and 80, which are at the 23rd and 24th positions. So since these also have the same value, interpolation also is not needed and the final value is 80. This is the box plot for both customer satisfaction score and customer retention rate. This first box, the lowest score recorded is 70, while the highest is 93. The first quartile of Q1 is 70.75. The median of Q2 is 85. The third quartile is Q3 is 89.25. Most of data is concentrated between Q1 and Q3, showing that customer satisfaction is generally high. The second box plot shows customers' retention rate, range from a minimum of 60 to a maximum of 88, with Q1 at 68, Q2 at 74, and Q3 at 80.
Hello everyone, my name is Daniel TIHON and my matrix number is BB23110498. Today I will be presenting a comparative between two critical performance indicators in business intelligence, which is customer satisfaction rate and customer retention rate. This analysis use several descriptive statistics to help us understand how these two metrics behave and what that means for decision. The first one, which is range. Range will show the spread between the lowest and the highest value in our data set. To calculate the range is maximum value minus with minimum value. So by using this formula, we can get that for customer satisfaction rate was around 23, but for customer retention rate, it was slightly higher than customer satisfaction rate, which is 28. It tells us that retention value are more spread out than satisfaction value. In simple terms, it means that that customer loyalty is less consistent than customer satisfaction. Next, let me move on to the mean absolute deviation, which is MAD. To calculate MAD was sum of the absolute value of each data point minus the mean and divided by the number of data points. Using this formula, we can get the MAD for customer satisfaction rate is 4.88%, whereas for retention rate, it was 5.74%. This tells us that customer retention rate tend to fluctuate more than satisfaction level. While satisfaction may be relatively stable, and retention seems to be affected by a wide variety of factors such as pricing, service, experience over time, or competitive offering. We move to the third one, which is variance. This formula is equal to the sum of square difference between each data point and the mean, then divided by n minus 1, where n is the number of observation. So by using this formula, we can get the variance for customer satisfaction was around 34.56, but for retention rate is nearly double to 79.86. This means that retention scores are more spread out and have more extreme value from a business view. This means the company may face challenges in keeping customer over time, especially if certain customers are more likely to leave based on service, pricing, and other issues. And for the standard deviation, which is simply the square root of the variance, so by using this formula, we can get the customer satisfaction rate for standard deviation is 5.88, and for retention rate is significantly higher at 8.95. For the last one is the most insightful measure, which is the coefficient of variation, or CV. To calculate this CV is by dividing the standard deviation with the mean. This statistic is particularly useful because it standardizes the variation relative to the mean. So the CV for the customer satisfaction rate is only 0.007, Meanwhile, for the CV for customer retention rate is 0.09. The lower CV indicate that the data points are closely clustered around the mean. In contrast, the higher CV for retention show greater inconsistency, which could signal deeper business or customer engagement issue. So that's all for me. Thank you.
Selamat sejahtera everyone. For this part of the presentation, I analyzed two key performance indicators: customer satisfaction score and customer retention rate. We collected data from 30 different companies and aimed to find out whether there is statistical relationship between how satisfied customers are and how likely they are to stay with the company. Okay, first I calculated the main values. The average satisfaction score was 84.23% and the average retention rate was 74.07%. Then I computed the covariance, which tells us the direction of the relationship, and it came out as 39.81, showing a positive trend. Next, using standard deviations of both variables, I calculated the correlation coefficient, which measures the strength and direction of the relationship. The result was 0.9466, a very strong positive correlation, close to 1, which means the two KPIs move together closely. In simple terms, this means that when customer satisfaction goes up, customer retention also increases significantly. This insight is powerful for decision making. It suggests that investing in customer satisfaction through better service, product quality or support can directly improve customer loyalty and also long-term business growth. So, for companies looking to boost retention, one clear and data-backed strategy is to prioritize customer satisfaction. That's all.